streaming. Fantastic. Okay, so we are live. Brilliant. Let me just share the link. There we go. Perfect. Okay. So as we wait for people to join this new session, let me introduce this project, Learn Italian Live. We've done it for a few months now. We're always live at 2 p.m. GMT on YouTube for the time being, and we practice Italian together. So you are welcome to come here with examples, questions, doubts, and post them in the live chat, and I'm going to tackle them as we go. Every session we try to have a theme or some topic to attack, and in this session I've also prepared a topic, so in case there's no questions, we can use that topic to get started and then have questions on the back of that. I'm getting a little bit of a few notifications. Okay. Yeah, so oh, ciao Arturo, ciao Claudio ragazzi, ciao a te, come stai? One important thing to say is that these sessions are supposed to last about half an hour. I don't want them to last hours and hours and hours. We always tend to spend a little bit more time than I'd like, but that's how it goes, anyways. Right. So I say another 30 seconds, and then if we don't have questions, I can get started. Already we have questions. All right. Can you explain gli e glielo, per favore? Yeah, this is a very difficult question. So this is the reason why Italian is so easy to pronounce, so easy to get started, but then there's a complex thing to deal with, which is the pronoun clusters, and that's something that's very advanced. So I can touch on it today. Maybe I can explain it quickly, and then if we need an extra explanation, we can tackle it in the next session, have a whole session just for this, because it's a very complex topic. Gli e glielo. Yeah, okay, fine. Amedeo, ciao a tutti, ciao a te. Perfect. So let's get started. I'm going to spend a little bit of time dealing with this question, because this is a live session, so priority should be given to the questions and not to my own hopes and dreams. So, right. So let's begin from the beginning, right? So I'm going to explain the difference between gli e glielo and how they're used. And of course, this is not a specific, we're not talking specifically about gli and glielo, but we're talking about pronoun clusters, what they are and where they come from and how they're used, how they come about. So let's begin. I wanted to talk about body parts today, but I guess we're going to talk about that later on. So Oh, you cannot see my screen, right? So I'm gonna have to change it. Right, okay, so now you can see my screen. Gli and Glielo. Right, so I hope that you can see now the screen. Yeah, I think you can. Let's come up with some examples, because that's the first thing that we should do, always. Gli dico di venire. Non gli parlo. That's it. Let's just stick with these two examples. So we're talking about gli and we're talking about glielo. Okay. So can anyone tell me what these two sentences mean and you know, where they come from, if they're correct, if there's mistakes in these sentences, so that we can get started. What is gli? Gli is a very important word, right? Gli dico di venire, non gli parlo. I'll change the... Let's focus on this first sentence. Dico a lui di venire. Mark, ciao Mark, plural uomo. Yes, plural and masculine. It can be. You're correct. So this is an interesting thing, right? I've just written down the same sentence in three different ways. Gli dico di venire, dico a lui di venire, dico a loro di venire. These are three sentences. First of all, what's the meaning of the sentence? Dico, let's break it down. Dico is basically the verb dire. First person singular, right? So in other words, it means I say, you say, he says, she says, etc. Venire comes from the verb venire, and it's the infinite. Right? So dico means I say, and venire means I come. Sorry, to come. To come. It's the infinite. So, gli dico di venire. They tell me where they come from. No. Good attempt. Good attempt. So you've used the right verbs, but that's not the meaning of the sentence. So these are sentences that we have to fully understand. The basic sentence is number 1, right? This sentence here. Dico a lui di venire. Dico a lui di venire. This sentence means I say to him, right? Dico a lui di venire. So to come. I am telling him to come over. Right? For example, I am at a party and a lady doesn't feel very well. And she says, oh, I don't feel very well, please call my husband. So I can say to her, I will tell him to come. Dico a lui di venire. So are we happy so far? Because I don't want to move forward if the foundations are not solid, if they're shaky. Is this sentence clear enough? Dico a lui di venire. The premise of this is that we need to understand that this is a pronoun, lui, him. In this case, lui looks and sounds exactly like lui, subject pronoun. In other words, he and him are the same word in Italian. Lui, lui va, he goes. Voglio lui, I want him. So now it's an object, not a subject. Voglio lui, it's always lui. So this is actually easier, right? We always use lui as a subject or as an object. The same with lei, if it was female. Voglio lei. Lei va, right? I want her. She goes. So you use she and you use her. In Italian, you always use lei. So this is just an object pronoun, lui. And then we have the preposition to him. I say to him, right? So this would be a predicate, this would be a prepositional phrase, and this is the content of what we're talking about, right? I say to him, what? To come. Are we clear? I told him to come. Absolutely. Now, Arturo is asking a question. It's a very good question. And that's something that Mark made me realize earlier on. So in my head, when I thought about gli dico di venire, in my head, I was thinking about speaking to one person. So dico a lui di venire. But here's the tricky thing. Gli, what is gli? So let's go back to answering the original question, right? Why am I talking about this example and why am I talking about this example? When really today we want to explain gli. We want to understand what gli means. Gli is a contracted, squashed form of a lui. In other words, you have the subject pronoun lui, you have the object pronoun lui, same, and then we have gli. Gli is to him. To him is a prepositional phrase, and it can be it can basically assume, it can take a different form, which is easier to pronounce and easier to write. Gli. That's what gli means. Complemento di termine, right? Complemento di termine, which basically, so let's just write it down again. So gli dico di venire. Gli is the same as a lui, which is the same as to him, which is complemento di termine. Okay, so we have lui, him, complemento oggetto, then we have lui, soggetto. Right? So we have these pronouns. We know Italian has lots of pronouns. English also has a lot of pronouns. We have the subject pronouns, I, you, he, she, etc. And then we have the object pronouns, me, you, him, her. And sometimes, like in the case of you, subject and object pronouns look exactly the same. Now in Italian, we also have other pronouns. Gli is part of a different collection of pronouns called indirect object pronouns, which basically means to him, to her, to me, to you. In English, you have to use the preposition and then the object pronoun. In Italian, you can do that, but you can also put everything together and use this new pronoun, gli. So gli is the same as a lui. Gli dico di venire. Dico a lui di venire. Same exact thing. Now, the last piece of information that unfortunately comes as a bittersweet surprise is that a lui and a loro look exactly the same. Let's take a look. Let's take a quick look at this phenomenon. So let's create, if I can, let's see if I can do this, a table with me. Remember, this means a me, right? So to me, ti, a te, to you, gli, a lui, to him, le, a lei, to her, ci, a noi, to us, vi, a voi, to you all, and then, well, we need one more, gli, a loro, to them. And this is the relatively unhappy surprise, meaning, ta-da, third person singular and third person plural look and sound exactly the same. In other words, it's the context that informs us if it's one or the other. Gli dico di venire. Oh, a chi? A lui o a loro? It could be that someone asks you that question because they don't understand, right? So this could be a very realistic and Italian dialogue. So someone says, say Mario. Someone says, guarda. Actually, chiama aiuto. So ask for help. And Luca says, gli dico di venire. And Mario asks, a chi? A lui or a loro? Okay, it's a very strange example, but I mean, you get the point, right? So gli is always going to have some sort of lack of accuracy, because there's no way to tell if it's to him or to them. But basically, this is the explanation of gli. And the explanation of gli is the same explanation as any other indirect object pronoun. These are the indirect object pronouns in Italian. They're very useful, right? And by the way, you will hear these pronouns in nearly every sentence. Ti dico, I tell you. Mi dai, you give to me. Like, you can hardly think of any Italian without indirect object pronouns. Subject, object, and indirect object pronouns are everywhere. So, yeah, we have to learn them. We have to understand them very well. Right. So we've explained gli, where it comes from, what it means. Right. If you like the video, please put a like. I am going to take 10-20 seconds. I'm going to drink some tea. And if you have any questions, post them in the chat. And after this, we're going to continue on with glielo, because glielo is a whole new thing and it's more complex. So I want to take a little moment, a step back, and let you breathe in, breathe out, and think about these. Maybe note them down if you haven't done yet. And then we can continue on with with the rest of the lesson. Which, by the way, it's already been 20 minutes, so yeah. We I will say this, to be honest. We spend a long time on these things in the university course. Some of you are students and you know very well. There are many lessons on this, because it's not difficult. Nothing is difficult. Nothing that the average person has to use every day without even thinking can be difficult. So no language is difficult in its own right, but certain topics, in order for them to be truly understood, there must be a path, there must be other topics clear already in your head, and so it takes a long time to every time unpack everything from the beginning. So I can only give a little bit of an overview of some of these topics, but anyways, we'll try. We'll spend another 10 minutes explaining, going from gli to glielo, if there aren't any questions along the way. Va bene, li ho scritto. Li ho scritti. No, that's a difficult one, because the past participle is gendered and pluralized. So yeah, li ho scritti, meaning the examples. I'm just commenting on what Arturo has written in the chat. All right, if we are all ready, if there aren't any more questions, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna start talking about how we go from gli to glielo, and what does glielo even mean. It looks like a very weird name for a dude, and it's not. It's a pronoun. Yeah, don't call your child a glielo. It's would be a bit strange. I mean, do what you want, but right. Meanwhile, I'm going to write down some examples. So Okay, so we have 3 examples here. Maybe you guys want to take a guess of what any of this means. Feel free to do so. Let's start from stuff that we actually know, right? Hai detto. Hai detto. Hai detto, present perfect, which is used as the past simple in Italian. Hai detto, you have said. You have said. It's conjugated, I, so you, second person singular. You have said. So you have said. You said, because we use it as past simple. You said, glielo, and then question mark. So it's a question, right? Okay, let's just focus on the first example. You have said it to him. You have said it to him. Exactly. Exactly. That's the meaning of the sentence. So let's just focus on the first example. And the other examples, feel free to work them out on your own and then let me know in the next session next week what you think they mean. I would actually be curious to know how far you can go without my help, you know. So, glielo hai detto. So here's the deal. Glielo is a pronoun cluster. It's called a pronoun cluster. What happens in Italian is that we've seen it time and time again. Pronouns merge with other pronouns, or sometimes pronouns merge with other prepositions to form other pronouns. A lui is basically, this has been a bit of a mistake actually. Let me just rectify. Gli was supposed to be green. This one. And this one was supposed to be, so let's remove that. Glielo was supposed to be in yellow. Yeah, so the idea behind glielo is that it's a pronoun cluster. What does that mean? Say that I want to say, have you said that to him? Have you said that to him? This is a very simple question, right? It's amazing how these complex features of Italian are used in every single situation. It's a sophisticated language. We need to understand pronouns for it. That's the bottom line. Have you said that to him? Now, in Italian, if we wanted to say something like this, we would need to ask the question using the right verb. And the right verb is hai detto. Hai detto is have you said. Hai detto, have you said. So we've already we can easily work out how to go from one language to the other when it comes to verbs. Hai detto, have you said, or did you say that to him, right? So we have the verb and the subject and the question formed, no problem. The problem is that and to him. That is a pronoun and him is also a pronoun. So how do we deal with that in Italian? Well, him is lui, to is a, we've already seen it. So, hai detto a lui, did you say to him, did you tell him what? That, quello, that. If you translate that in Italian, if you go to Google Translate, Traverso, anything, they will always come up with quello. Very important word, quello, that. Questo is this, quello is that. Okay, so did you say that to him? Hai detto a lui quello? Now, if you said that to an Italian, they would understand. This is Italian. Hai detto a lui quello. Hai detto quello a lui. And of course, there's different ways to say this, but this is one way and it's a perfectly fine way. It's grammatically correct. Now, the deal is nobody speaks like this. It's a bit strange. They might, depending on the circumstances, sometimes you want to spell things out. But normally, people, as we said previously, they don't use preposition and object pronoun. They squash that, they merge them together and form gli, to him. Gli. Gli means to him. Right. Quello. This can also be shortened in lo. Lo is an object pronoun. It's an object pronoun. Do you remember how we have subject pronouns? I, you, he, she, and then we have me, you, him, her, subject and object pronouns. Quello can be shortened into lo, which is the third person singular of it, right? So did you say it? Did you say it to him? Did you say it to him? So one could think, oh, okay, then I put ye here, then lo here, and here we go. No, it's not as simple. And this is what a pronoun cluster is. The pronoun cluster is the following. Whenever we have not one, but two sentence constituents, pieces of information, pronouns that are shortened, we know that when they are shortened, they come before the verb, right? This is one thing that happens. We saw it in the previous example as well. When a sentence constituent is shortened, like a lui, hai detto a lui, becomes gli hai detto. So it goes before the verb. Now, if this happens twice, in other words, if we end up with two shortened pronouns before the predicate, before the verb, well, we can't have that. If that happens, then those two shortened pronouns merge once again and form a pronoun cluster, which is also called cumulo pronominale. So it's a pronoun cluster. Cumulo pronominale. And you know, some people think, well, you don't really need to talk about these things to foreign speakers, because no Italians know about this. And that is a dumb argument. And I'm going to explain to you in a minute why it's a dumb argument. Seriously dumb argument. Not dumb in the sense that I'm emotionally affected by it, but in the sense that a lot of people can't learn Italian because they are told that they shouldn't spend time learning these difficult stuff. Now, this is not difficult stuff. This is absolutely basic stuff. And I don't understand why the background here has gone nuts. Anyways, like if you don't want to learn pronoun clusters, that's absolutely fine, but they still exist. That's the problem. And these rules still apply. Short story, to make it short, Glielo is the pronoun cluster that means that to him. That to him. So it's a composition of two logical components within the phrase, the sentence. So for example, have you said that to him? Did you say it to him? Or did you give it to him? Did you give it to her? Did you give it to them? These are very simple, banal sentences. They're very mundane, they're very common. And you always use pronoun clusters for it. Now you can learn them off by heart, but it's good to have an understanding of what they mean and where they come from. And that's it. I've been talking for 35 minutes on just this, Glielo. And by the way, I understand that it's difficult. I understand that it takes hours and hours to learn these things. And we spend hours and hours on this in the course. So Glielo, it could be Gliela, right? Gliela. It could be Glieli, etc. It could be all sorts of things. There are many variations, right? Do you guys have any questions? Are you completely confused? Are you 10% confused? Are you 90% confused? You have said it to him? Yeah, absolutely. I guess from what you taught, you're very clear. It's helpful to me. Thanks, Arturo. What is the loro form? Loro. Glielo hai detto. It would be the same. Yeah, it would be the same because it comes from the same. So the pronoun, the indirect object pronoun would be the same, and therefore glielo would end up being glielo again. Gli plus lo becomes glielo, and there are rules. I mean, I guess it's a few tables, right? With all these, but yeah, lo stesso. And yeah, I mean, this is a very difficult subject. I don't even know if it's if it's the right type of stuff to talk about in these sessions, but I guess it is important. It's one of those things. It's mandatory for basic Italian. You know, we're not trying to speak like a lawyer or a judge or a professional. We're thinking about how to speak confidently and how to speak like a real person, like normal people do, because if you don't, then you use the language in ways that the language is not intended for. So this is where Italian becomes tricky and also very, very nice, very beautiful to speak, because it can be efficient. It can be extremely efficient. You can have 3, 4, 5 words all merged into one. And if you get used to then using that one word, you save a lot of time and it becomes very... you explain it very clearly, but it's complex and hard to get when listening to the conversation. Yeah. I guess I don't know what the best way to understand these things is, but the way to there's two ways to go about it, right? One could learn it in their heads with, you know, the approach that we've taken, which is looking at X, Y, Z, going from logical point to logical point to logical point to make sure that the understanding is at least the understanding exists. And then another way would be to just listen to music, watch movies, and in that way you see how these things, these words, these pronouns are used. So I think doing both is the best. If I could choose a way to learn these things as fast as possible, I would probably do both. I would take my time to understand all the concepts and look at the tables and understand where each thing comes from, and then also listening to music, consuming videos, listening to people that speak Italian will help with the rest. The problem is that you cannot ask native speakers to tell you about these things because they just, you know, they would just not know. I mean, try and see what responses you get. But these are things that people become very familiar with as they grow up. So when they're 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, they already use them. They're just shortened versions of other pronouns. It's not that difficult though, because I mean it is, but these clusters sound very similar to the pronouns put one next to each other, one next to the other, so shouldn't be too difficult. Yeah, I'm not sure why the video stopped. I hope that you guys can still see me and hear me. But yeah, if I don't have any more questions, I think we can call it a day for today. It's been over 40 minutes now. If you have more questions on this, or if you think that is on it, or if you have examples that are correct or not correct, or if you want to test their correctness, feel free to ask in the next session, and I'm going to do my best to answer everything. All right. Thank you all. Grazie a tutti. Ci vediamo la prossima settimana. See you next week. And always practice Italian. Bring some examples. Bring some tough questions. Just like today. Well done, everyone. I'm very happy to see